Hey, I'm here. And she can do, you just look at the screen, she can shoot magic. She can, I really like it because maybe it's because she's from our world. She put little rocks around her wrist and use it as a machine gun. She shoot little pellets like this. So maybe she just imagined that she has some kind of telekinesis power, at least telekinesis at the beginning. I don't know after that. But that's basically what she is. She's a person from our world going to a fantasy world, and she's completely OP, and she destroys demons for whatever reason. But I would guess something like save the world, and she will go back to her city on Earth at the end, being whole confident, and she will beat up bullies, and that's it. The game is finished. It's gonna be like this, you know that. So, so yeah, the whole story was spoiling the story. Doesn't mean that it's gonna be bad. I think it's gonna be very good. And the fact that they sorry delayed the game, because what I didn't mention, I watched these trailers in HD. I didn't find the graphics really good. Yeah, okay, huh? But if you compare to an Horizon Forbidden West, which went out recently, doesn't compare. So again, these videos, I believe, are 1 year old or more. So maybe the render's not finished. I hope it's gonna look better. But in terms of story, it's a classic Japanese trope, absolutely classic. But it works. It's fun. You see it in manga and books and anime all the time. Why not in video game? So that's what I was wondering. Why they choose a Black American person when it's a pure Japanese story. They could have put an Asian for once, because Asian in their games for Western market they usually like to put Westerners. Maybe it sells better. But since this story is so Japanese, there's 150% Japanese. I could have gone with an Asian for once, but I don't know. Maybe against it's for marketing or whatever. I don't know what you think.
I think in this case they just wanted something different. I mean, there are lots of uh, games where you have Asian protagonists. Granted, typically they do typically have more of an anime aesthetic, so it's maybe not so obvious. But I think here they just really wanted something different and
Like Aloy?
yeah, kind of like an Aloy kind of character. Yeah, and I think that also because Square Enix is based in the U.S. now. Um,
Oh, true. That's true.
so yeah, they're not purely Japanese anymore.
No, but the story is.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean she's from New York, so
Of
but
course, but if you ever read manga, that's an isekai like a 300%. So
yeah, but I also think that part of it might be that they just kind of thought like in terms of maybe world appeal. Maybe they thought, hey, if we have more of a Western character, this will have more of a worldwide appeal than maybe if we went with a general character. And I mean, there aren't too many female black protagonists in games, so this is another way to make your game kind of stand out. And that's flirted with controversy on its with certain individuals.
yeah, I
Uh,
recall that.
yeah, so uh, but I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
Oh, I am too. I mean, the story is basic, and we already know the end. But you know, if it's
she
good food,
succeeds. I mean, granted, what else are you gonna expect, right?
absolutely.
But yeah, the story seems really interesting to me. So and yeah,
Boom, straight in the tummy.
yes, right in the
That
stomach.
must hurt.
On
She's
the
been.
story of the protagonist, right? I don't know if you guys saw that on Twitter last year, or probably starting 2 years ago. There was a social movement for Black girls to get more involved or more representation. So there's like a very famous Twitter handle run by a girl out of Brooklyn. I chatted to her a few times. She runs a Twitter handle for Black Girl Gamers, BGG, something like that, and she often promotes like Black girl streamers or women in gaming in general. And so I can imagine this would have been a decision in part behind it, because she's pretty well known. Like, she was invited to a bunch of studios and stuff, and to sort of get women more involved in games, and especially women of color more involved in gaming. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. like I've definitely seen people saying, and this is something that irritates me. People saying like, oh, it's so woke. They're just putting a female protagonist on it, and she's a black female protagonist. She's probably gonna be a lesbian too. So they're just like, yeah. I've seen people and they're like, oh, this black female lesbian protagonist, and they're like, there's nothing in the trailers that says she's lesbian. You're just projecting at this point. But I mean, this is something. I'm not a fan of like gender swapping or race swapping characters. Like the new Ghostbusters or whatever. And the reason is because when you do that, I feel like it's saying we don't have enough faith that women or, a minority or whatever, we don't have enough faith that these people could actually attract an audience. So we're going to have to piggyback off of a white male character in order to get people to watch that. And that to me is a cop-out. It's like, if we're gonna have a black James Bond, it's like we couldn't create an original character. We need a white man James Bond to attract audiences, and then we'll introduce them to the black character. So it's kind of like a black character can't stand on their own. So I don't like it when they do that. So I always like it when they create these new characters, and then they're gonna give them like Static Shock back in the '90s. I was a big fan of that. Let's create a new character, or whatever. So here you get this, and then and people hate it. They're like, oh yeah, they're just trying to. They're just doing this because they're woke or whatever. So, if they want to have a black female and a protagonist, they should create their own stuff. People are doing this right now. They're creating an original character. This is exactly what you were suggesting. And then as soon as they do it, people are like, oh, it's just so woke. And it's like, oh God, come on, man.
Haters gonna be haters.
Yeah, it's like you just wanted to be angry. You were complaining that they're like, swapping out these characters and replacing them with these other people and whatever. You're going to complain about that. So then you say if they want to do it, they should create an original character. They do that and then you complain again. So that always irritates me. So I'm actually really excited. When I first saw this, I was like, ooh, this is new. This is fresh. And this goes into the whole new IP thing. I mean, this is part of the risks of new IPs is that, yeah, on the one hand, you are taking a risk. If you take a character like James Bond or something, it's going to sell. You just know it's going to sell. It's got that clout. Same thing with Final Fantasy or Fallout. If you release a new Fallout game, it can suck and it's going to sell because it's Fallout, right? Same thing with Final Fantasy or any big franchise. Mario. I can't think of a Mario that sucked, but if it did, it would still sell, right? With the exception of that one Mario mobile game. But but yeah, so it's a big risk when you do something like this, especially when you decide to go with a character who's so different than everything else. It's I think they're really kind of weighing the risks and the rewards. On the one hand, you're trying something new. It's not proven. So, you don't have, you might not get as many people pre-ordering it or something like that. You might have more people waiting for reviews. Like for instance, Elden Ring had this huge backing of the Demon Souls and the Dark Souls and Bloodborne behind it. So, it sold like crazy, and we saw all these, all the ratings were super high, and now you have a lot of people who are saying like, oh, I bought this game, it's too hard, and I don't like it, and now you're starting to get all these people, but they bought it because it had that reputation. And when you do a new IP like this one, that's just so different from everything else. I mean, let's face it, Elden Ring is not that different from previous Demon Souls.
It's exactly the same.
It's basically the same. It's just open world, exactly.
You just type From Software on your browser and you will see what you will get. Don't... Oh, I got killed by his first boss. Yes! It's a Dark Soul.
Yeah.
Of course you got killed by the first skeleton around.
Yeah. So this one to me is I really like the idea because it is a new IP. It's very fresh. What retracted me when I first saw it was just the magic systems and just all the crazy flashiness of it. And that has me both excited and worried because on the one hand, I'm thinking like, this looks really cool. And if they pull it off, this is going to be so much fun to play with the magic system and then just, run around and do all these crazy things. But if it's kind of hackneyed, then it could be kind of just a really janky game. I think what Antoine's saying too earlier about the graphics look kind of basic. I think a lot of that has to do with the environment, because I will say the environment does look mostly like desert and rocks and super sparse. So
Oh, there was
um,
some ruins at the
there are some
beginning
ruins. There are some
with
ruins,
the
but everything
dragon.
kind of has that near automata kind of,
Exactly what
like
I wanted to say. Yeah, it really
dry
felt like the Nier
beige.
Automata.
Everything's deserty.
The one the remake you made you streamed before.
Yeah.
Gestalt? Was it
Gestalt was that was
Gestalt?
near Replicant.
Replicant, yeah,
Replicant,
sorry.
yeah.
It really felt like this, running around with your magic.
It does. It does kind of have that vibe to it. So, but yeah, and the story to me was really interesting. I mean, it's 100% like what Antoine said. It's isekai. I mean, the girl somehow is transported to this other world. In this other world, the other world's name is Athia, which is why it was originally called Project Athia. And because she's from our world, this world has some kind of blight in it where part of the world is corrupted, and if you go into those areas, that's where you find the monsters. And there's basically just one city that's still surviving, and so she has to go out into this world and free these areas from the blight that have already been corrupted. But because she's from our world, the rules of their world don't necessarily apply to her, which makes her immune, and so immediately she's the other. And I think that's kind of interesting that they can do this angle where she's in our world, she's a minority person. She's black, right? So in our world, we see that, but then when you're doing a gameplay thing, the way that they're kind of introducing this is they're like, okay, she's a minority still, but not because she's black, but because she's a person from our world. So then even say white people or Hispanic people can still relate to her on some level, because she's one of us. So even if we were in her situation, we would still be kind of seen as the other in this world. And so I think that's kind of a clever little twist on it, to kind of get people to relate to her, where they can make her like, okay, she's a minority character, so people can relate to her on that level. But then because she's from our world, everybody from our world is a minority in this world. So I think it's very creative. I'm really looking forward to this game. I did pre-order the deluxe edition, which I went against all of Antoine's advice. So, so I did. But I'm super excited for this game.
Now that works for Adam because he bought it, earlier, maybe cheaper, and he's not gonna play it until 6 months after the game has been released. So all the patch will be already out. So
I don't know. This one I might make an exception for, like like I did with Final
okay,
Fantasy VII Remake, and just be like, whatever I'm doing, I'm dropping it. And if I finish another game like a month ahead, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like play Apex. I'm not gonna pick up something else because I want to make sure that my plate is clear when this comes out. So
I was thinking, do you feel that they took out a little bit of Final Fantasy Spirit Within? Remember the movie?
yeah,
Just one surviving city with lots of whatever specters and
I hadn't
ghosts
thought about
outside.
that, but now that you
Yeah,
say it, yeah, I can see it. Yeah,
except that you can't purge it. Korean, you're very blurry. Is it just me?
he's blurry for me too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be my internet because like Adam was just blurry just now, but now he's become clear.
All right. Just in case you may have seen a lot of videos from Adam's stream and stuff in Taiwan, apparently, internet is
Being
more or less
weird.
dying these days.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. It's
So
just
let's
bizarre.
hope we can finish the show with them in one piece.
Well, Adam's recording, so we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's already in 2 pieces.
Yeah.
Already.
Like
And it's
literally
just-
right at the end of the intro video, like as the screen was going white, it disconnected, and I was like, come on. But it hasn't done that since. So
Nice.
Okay.
So I want to make a point about the graphics because I'm not sure if you guys saw the news yesterday. Gotham Knights, the WB game coming out in October as well. They said basically, and this is supposed to be the industry trend that, like future AAA games, because of budgetary constraints or desire, are not going to be console backwards compatible, so no PS4 version, no Xbox One version, only Xbox Series S or X, only PS5. So I can imagine maybe Forspoken is going to be like, okay, let's make this sort of in between, so it can scale up